Welcome to week 4 of electronic business. This week we'll be covering chapter 4 of your text. So chapter 4, this chapter walks you through the general process of building an e-commerce presence, right? It lays out the methodology for approaching the problem, as well as consideration of the major issues in building an e-commerce presence, and identify some of the tools available that can help entrepreneurs and business managers alike, right? One of the key points for this week is that building an e-commerce presence is a complex undertaking, right? It's akin to building an entirely new information system. So major physical and human resources are required, and many firms find it cost-effective to outsource a part, if not all, of the effort, right, to specialized firms or organizations or companies. On the other hand, building an e-commerce presence has never been easier or cheaper. Right? In general, the cost of building an e-commerce presence in 2017 is less than 1/10 of the cost back in the year 2000. Right? This should be really encouraging to any budding entrepreneurs, right? And as I know some of you are, that you can start to look at it from your own perspective and start to maybe undertake it yourself rather than to piecemeal it out or portion it out. As you go into the chapter, right, one of the first things you'll go into the chapter is an opening case study, right? It's called USA Today Redesigns. And it examines some of the factors involved in the redesigning of USA Today's website and mobile apps. As you go through this first case study, right, this opening case, there's some questions I'd like you to ask yourself, right? Keep them in the back of your mind as you go through the case and try to answer them as they relate to the entirety of the chapter. The first question is, what were USA Today's objectives in redesigning its e-commerce presence? Right? Another question would be, what considerations, if any, were unique to the newspaper business that was involved in this redesign? And then, finally, what did USA Today do, right, to meet the needs of mobile device users? Now, after you read that, you'll go into the first section of the chapter, which is imagining your e-commerce presence, right? This discusses the process of creating an e-commerce presence by developing an idea, understanding how the idea can potentially make money, right? That's the ultimate goal of any business, to make money. Defining the target audience, the marketplace, determining what content should look like. And an important part of this, which you'll see often time and time again, will be a SWOT analysis, right? A SWOT analysis is a square, and you have 4 quadrants. And the first one's looking at the internals of the organization. What does it do good, and what does it do poorly? A strength, weakness. And the other half is looking at the external environment of the business, right? Where are opportunities? Where do our opportunities lie? Where can we expand into? Where can we grow into? What's happening external to the environment that would be a boon for us as an organization? And the other part is a threat. Right? What is a threat to our organization from the external marketplace? Right? Beyond that, it's developing a presence map and creating a timeline. Now, in the early years of e-commerce, right, websites were often built one page at a time with little advanced planning. I know because I used to design some of these, and you piecemeal together. You do one page, a home page, okay? Then you do a second page, maybe if another thing came up, or you add on. You'd be continuously building it out with no clear architecture in mind in the beginning. Many disasters resulted from this, right? Section 4.2 of your text, right, borrows a systems analysis approach, right, design framework from large-scale systems, and applies it to building an e-commerce website, which in reality, for most organizations, is a large-scale system. Table 4.2 helps you understand business objectives, right, the level of system functionality needed, and the information requirements. This has to plant the idea that systems, information, business objectives, these are all intimately connected in any e-commerce or online presence. Going on from there, you'll see figures 4.4 and figure 4.5, right? 4.4 covers most of the outsourcing options available. And figure 4.5 illustrates the range of tool options available to you. And then you'll get to see the case, right? Weebly creating websites easily. Right? So Weebly is once a small startup itself, right, which enables a small business to create a website easily and inexpensively. And they're not the only ones in the marketplace these days. There are numerous websites that allow you to create your own website, design your own website. Microsoft came out with Front Page. Back when we used to do things in like HTML, there's newer, more advanced coding languages to make this easier for e-tailers. Now, choosing the right software. Right? Oftentimes, companies are curious about where all the software needed to operate a website comes from. They will often use web server, right, hardware, with web server software. Confusion made possible by the widespread use of the generic term web server itself. Right? Now, in the text in the chapter, you'll learn through what the essence of this really is, right? And then you'll see like figure 4.11 in your text. I think it's 4.11 is a good place to start, right? Because that's a description of both a simple and complex architecture for a website. And then you'll learn about some more of the basic functionality provided by web server software, right? As well as the many different types of application servers. Finally, at the end of the section, you'll be covering, you'll see some open source software options for any students who are interested in doing it themselves or building on their own. And now, as a critical component, we talk about software, but then we also have to talk about hardware, right? What hardware is required to run a website and how much is needed? Websites can be very simple, right? You can run a website in your basement with a telephone line and a simple server. Now, how many people can you actually run through that server in a given time frame? How fast is your connection? What's the lag? And all these other things. Power drain. But you can do it. But it's not as effective or efficient as many other servers can be, right? And then part of that is also talking about processor load, right? You have to note these two things in conjunction, right? The impact of the user profile and the web page content has on performance. The more interactive the content, the more processor power is needed, not just for the end user, but for you as a server as well. Now, in addition to server software and hardware, right, site developers use a variety of tools to build and manage their e-commerce sites. Design elements such as widgets, mashups, they enhance user engagement and involvement. Right? Some of these are like CGI, ASP, Java, JSP, JavaScript, ActiveX, VBScript, Cold Fusion, Ruby on Rails, Django. These are all tools used to handle interactive elements on web pages. Right? These are more, you get more into programming languages as you get to the IT departments and IT fields, though. Now, one of the last sections of this chapter, right? We're talking about developing a mobile website, right? And mobile applications. Because this is a huge growing trend in the area of e-commerce. Right? It introduces you to some issues surrounding developing a mobile website, right, and developing mobile applications. Spend some time reading and think about the differences between mobile websites that are optimized for the mobile platform, right, versus a regular websites that are not. Now, I have an iPhone 7 Plus, right? It's a huge screen, and I can access websites right from my phone, and it's large enough that I can see some of these things. But when I go back to like my daughter's like 4 or 4S, it's such a small screen, and for websites that aren't optimized for a mobile device, it becomes very difficult to use, right? Now, although you're undoubtedly familiar, right, with different apps, many individuals do not understand the distinction, right, between a mobile web app, a native app, and a hybrid app. Right? And so take a think about those few things as you go through the chapter. As you progress from there, right, Table 4.2 applies, again, the systems analysis approach and design framework. Right? First introducing the table like section 4.1 to developing a mobile presence. And there's some unique features that you should be aware of, right, and take into account when designing for the mobile platform. There's a section on mobile presence design considerations and new trends in this area, including mobile first design philosophy, right, responsive web design, RWD, and adaptive web design, AWD. There's also a concluding case in this, which provides a rich illustration for both business and technology considerations that have shaped the development and redevelopment since then of Orbit's simple website and apps. Okay, and as you go through the coursework this week, under assignments and projects, you'll see that there are a few assignments there. The first is a quiz, right? It's a reading quiz, simple 15 multiple choice questions pulled from a pool. Take it as many times as you want, right? I pulled the highest grade. Then there's a discussion board this week, okay? So as you go back through and you're reading the Insight in Society case, okay, and it's designed for accessibility, right? As you read through this case, I want you to discuss this case, right? And some prompts for you as you read this article, right? Why might some merchants be reluctant to make the websites accessible to disabled Americans? How can websites be more accessible? Should all websites be required by law to provide equivalent alternatives for visual and sound content? And what additional accessibility problems do mobile devices pose? Right. So as you read through the case with those questions in mind, I want you to have an initial post and then 2 responses. Right? So I want 1 substantive initial post. Right? You don't need to answer the questions above, but it's definitely a great starting point, right, for discussion. But analyze the case, referencing back to parts of this chapter and previous chapters in your text. Please try to post this initial post before Friday at midnight, just to give your students, give your peers an opportunity to respond. And then the second part is just 2 responses, right? Allowing 2 responses to your peers, examining their post, responding with detail and almost a critiquing manner, but just in a conversational manner. I want you to find what's good, what's bad, what's questionable, any biases they might have in their opinions or in their initial responses. Please not post single sentence responses, right? Saying that you either agree or you disagree with everything in the initial post. From there, you have an online research project. All right, again, I'm giving you 3 options this week, depending on what track you want to focus on, right? What interests you most. The first one is for those developers out there, right? Go to the website of like Wix, Weebly, or any other provider of your choosing, and create a simple e-tailer website for a free trial period. Just try it out. Right, create a website. The site should feature at least 4 pages, right? Including a home page, maybe a content page, a product page, shopping cart. Okay, if you don't have a product, make one up. Just try it out, right? And then link your site and include a description of your e-tailer concept and website. Now, if you'd rather look at more of the strategy types aspect of things, right? Imagine that you're in charge of a fast-growing startup's e-commerce presence, right? Consider your options for building the company's e-commerce presence in-house with existing staff or outsourcing the entire production and operation. Decide which strategy you believe is more important for your company's best interests and create a brief office memo outlining position. Right? Why choose that approach? What are the estimated associated costs? Make an educated guess, but just outline for me how you came to your decision, right? And then the third option is to actually visit some e-tailing sites, right? E-commerce sites, not including those already discussed in the chapter, and evaluate the effectiveness of the sites according to the 8 basic criteria for functionalities listed in Table 4-11 in your text. Right? Write a brief office memo to your boss that compares and contrasts the worst and best parts of these sites you visited with specific examples of things your company should and should not do on their own site. Now, the last part then is for the week is a video case study. And this week you'll be watching a video on the National Kidney Registry. All right, please watch the video, read my comments about that, and then answer 4 of the questions in detail. Right? And I've also provided an APA template for you when you're answering those questions. All right, if you have any questions this week, please feel free to email me or post in the discussion board or call my office. Have a great week.